Good morning. Welcome to Accuracy in America. I am your host, Don Irvine, joined by my co-host, Brian McNichol.
Hello, deplorables, dregs, despicables, chumps, Neanderthals, and those dog-faced pony soldiers.
All right. It's good to be with you. Hope those that will be watching throughout didn't miss us too much last week, but about every 6 weeks, I just run into a little bit of a scheduling issue, and it's better for my sanity.
I saw you had some big dinners out there and whatnot.
Yeah, it just gets to be a point where it's like my responsibilities are just like I can't juggle all this stuff.
That's good.
It's okay to take a week off, from this show.
Yeah. You're involved in a good thing there, and it's a good. We're gonna miss. Let's miss for something good.
Yeah, I thank you for that. I appreciate that. All right. Well, the weather report, it's wet and rainy today, but I did want to kind of just touch on the fact that Virginia and Tyson's Corner and Centerville actually wound up getting EF0 tornadoes, which is a short thing. I mean, it's not a big tornado, but it can still do a pretty good amount of damage in a short period of time. Considering that I had been asking and talking about tornadoes in the South, down in Louisiana, down in Texas, previously to this. You live in Virginia, I live in Maryland, but that's still too close to me for comfort.
Yeah. Well, talk about close for comfort. So the one that hit in Centerville, they were telling us in Reston, that one's headed straight for you. And like my cousin was, he was sending me these weather like radar shots, and you could see like this red orb thing moving up the thing from Centerville to Reston. And then we had tornado warnings, go get in the middle of your house, 8:40, here it comes, and he's like, and so we're sitting there, me and Lori are sitting there at 8:40, and the kids are not home. So it's like, sort of like, well, we hope they're okay, and we're like, wow, here, here's our big moment. What's going to happen? And he's like, well, it looks like it's dissipated. They're killing all the warnings. So that was just good, so it did touch down in Centerville. Another tornado did touch down in Tyson's Corner, knocked the roof off a gas station, did a little more damage right across the street from the Tyson's Mall, right in the middle of the Tyson's Mall complex, if people know or familiar with that. But it could have been a lot more, that happens, I guess it wouldn't happen around Christmas, but that happens around Christmas. There's tens of thousands of people there roaming around. So, could have been a lot worse than it was.
I was watching the news reports when I was at the gym in the morning, and that gas station was a big focus because they weren't at that point in time. The Weather Service, they hadn't gone and actually been able to do their analysis to see if a tornado touched down. But boy, every news crew that I was right at that Sunoco station, I guess it was, and you could see this thing, and then they focused in on the canopy and the pillars, the beams that had lifted off the ground, that separated from the concrete, and saying that two of the three were now separated from the concrete, so that was pretty unsafe. Apparently, they had talked to the attendant inside who had basically ducked for cover, and the station is not that big. That's a little convenience store. You got to be scared out of your wits. But yeah, Chain Bridge Road, the whole Tyson's area. I may have even gassed up there once, when I used to go down to Tyson's on occasion to shop. Yeah. So, I know the area, and it's like that's for me, that's about a 20 or 30 minute drive from my house, but that's a lot closer than I want that to be.
Yeah, it's a lot less, and that's about 10-minute drive from my house.
Yeah, so I do want to bring up your Father of the Year award here after your little. I just need. What happened?
So we go to the grocery store, right? And I send them in, and they've got their list, and they buy their stuff, and they come out, and they put it all in the car. And then Marty, and then I hear the two back doors shut, and then Marty gets in, and he shuts his door, and I'm like, okay, sounds like we're all accounted for, right? So we start, and me and Marty start talking, right? And we drive home, and we're pulling in, and Marty's like, because we start talking about like how we're going to divide up carrying things in, right? So we can all do it in one trip. And Marty's like, babes, what do you have? Babes, what do you have? What do you carry? And she didn't answer. We looked back there. It's like, there's no one back there. Right. And so it's like, now, did she jump out of the car when we got home? Did we just miss that? So then it's like, so we called her. I'm sorry. I didn't know what happened. I'm on the bus. I'm on the way home. I'm like, oh my God. So that's one of those things, man. 20 years from now, if I'm still on the top side of the dirt, they will still be giving me a hard time. So,
you know, that's a heck of a way to make another family.
That's a tattoo. I'm wearing that one forever. So,
you know, I want to give her credit though for having the wherewithal to get on the bus and do all of that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good response. But she realized she was left. She got herself home calmly. You know, I guess she was a little upset because she told me that she thought that I was mad at her for being too slow about getting in the car. And I'm like, I've never driven off on you before. Like, you've never really done anything that made me so mad. I'm like, you know, heck with it. I'm leaving this kid here driving off. I've never done that. You know, so I don't, yeah, but you know,
in the future, it's like, okay, everyone, sound off.
Now we're, you know, every time we get in the car, it's like, babes, you back there? You back there? You're taking attendance, baby.
Yeah, that'll go on for a little while. Then she goes off to college, and things will get forgotten for a while.
And then it'll be brought up again.
You know what my dad did? That's great. That's a funny story, but you know, everything turned out well in the end. Yeah. I mean, it turned out fine. That's what it is that everybody was safe, and that's the real concern there. So
yeah, smart kid who did well under pressure there.
Yeah. A lot of kids wouldn't have that awareness to do that. So credit to her for doing that. Once again, another point that you have raised your children very well. That they meant,
we'll see.
despite what you have done, and that they knew what to do. She knew what to do.
Yeah, my wife's doing a heck of a job.
That's right. All right. Well, Ukraine. So now we're about like day 42. This is unbelievable. I mean, this is. I mean, we've talked about this. We've said before. This is a quagmire, and it's only getting deeper and deeper. You know, I think with all of this is unbelievable as to how long this is going. I mean, I'm seeing, you know, military experts, or at least, you know, military experts saying that, you know, this is, you know, you're not going to think about these things in terms of weeks or months. This could be years now. I mean, they're now reevaluating this and talking about how long this is going to be going on here. You know, Putin is dug in to a certain extent, and yet he's with, you know, they pulled back. It's a mess for
changing his goals some. You know, it's not wipe out the whole country anymore. It's kind of sort of take what we need and, you know, seal it off from the rest and dare them to fight us over this little bit, right? Which is a big, you know, that's a big change from we're going to just overwhelm you, you know, shock and awe, Soviet style or whatever, you know. They're holding their own. You know, they're showing more character than the Russians. The Russians are getting frustrated about this. You're starting to see the things that happen when an invading army loses allegiance to the mission, right? You're starting to see, you know, war crimes. You're starting to see them go into towns and, you know, kill all the men, rape all the women, you know, kill people in front of their kids. Every kind of depravity they can think of, right? What this does is it creates endemic, you know, if the Russians plan to occupy any of Ukraine, I mean, they won't be able to do it peaceably for a long, long time. All these people will have to die and forget, right? At some point, they're going to have to either commit the resources to conquer the entire country or get out, because their people won't be safe anywhere in the country.
Yeah, you know, I've got a friend on Facebook, and she's originally from Russia, but she's been living in this country for, I don't know, probably 15 plus, well, probably maybe even close, could be even close to 20 years by now. I don't know exactly when she came here, but you know, I think on Facebook, you know, she's a housewife, she's a mom, living out in Georgia, but has very strong feelings about it's the motherland for her, right? I mean, she's a native of Russia and things like this, and I think she's really confused because I think apparently I guess she got pretty heavily attacked when she first started commenting on this one when this whole thing broke out, and here we are, you know, was it now 6+ weeks later, and I guess she's made some more comments. but I was a little dumbfounded because she's now trying to defend Russia, the motherland, as she calls it. It's like, all they were trying to do is protect their borders. It is like, I looked at some of the comments her friends were making, and I think they were like, how does protecting the border, when you're actually going into another country, how does that protecting the border? It's not like Ukraine walked over and invaded Russia, So
Right.
I mean, I understand this natural inclination to want to defend your homeland, but on the other hand, the facts are pretty clear. I mean, look at the Russia's tried to deny this whole thing in Bucha or whatever, Bucha or Bucha, however you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Where they have satellite images showing that no, that those things, those bodies, those atrocities were not staged.
Right. This really happened. That's right. And and the thing about it is a lot of these people on the American right, they're still sticking their foot deep into it, right, and talking about all the the Ukrainians were targeting the Russian citizens within Ukraine. You can't blame Putin for being too nervous about this on his border. It's like, you don't get to decide Ukraine's foreign policy, right? You don't get to tell them who to ally with, right? They pose no threat to you. If we could wait 1,000 years and Ukraine would not have attacked Russia, right? Right, and no other country in the world would have attacked a neighbor over no more than Ukraine has done to Russia, right? I mean, the Chinese wouldn't even attack people over so little, right? They're holding off on Taiwan over much more, So, and we keep sticking our foot in it. We have these people who've, been on the side of freedom for decades, and they're just mindlessly parroting Putin talking points. I went through a round of it this week with these people. They're like, oh, you just don't understand the situation. Like, the situation's pretty easily understandable, right? They got invaded. They fought back. And, whatever thing, annoyed Putin to the extent to invade them is not sufficient excuse. It doesn't work that way. You see a lot of this, we're wasting a lot of time and mental energy on the UN and those. Should they be on the Human Rights Council? Should they be on the Security Council? Zelensky called for taking them off the Security Council. And so I don't think you can do that. The way the UN was founded, they're guaranteed that spot, and I don't think that's ever going to change. I believe they have a veto power over any vote that comes before the UN. So if they have a veto power, like as we do too, you put these measures up all day, they're never going to agree to them. So it does look like it's being fought to a standstill. Looks like atrocities are picking up. It looks like the Ukrainians can hold their homeland. They may end up making some kind of land swaps in the east just to make the thing end, but it does not look like they're going to lose the war as it stands right now.
Yeah, which is amazing as it is, and you talk about, because we have mentioned some of these people in terms of as a group on the right, just determinedly, doggedly sticking to this position, and it's befuddling, it's mind blowing, whatever. Just
parroting Putin talking points, word for word. It's like, how did we get here? What's wrong with these people?
Yeah, I mean, what does that do to their credibility, though? I mean,
right. These are tattoos. You'll be trying to get this off 20, 30 years from now. Oh no, I didn't say that. Well, yeah, you did.
Yeah, I mean, you can't walk in this day and age with the technology available. You can't walk this stuff back. It's not like it was 50 years ago where you'd have to dig up a newspaper article. You might hope to have somebody catch you on video, some grainy video or whatever. Everything is being recorded virtually.
Yeah, internet forever, baby. I tell my kids that all the time.
It's stamped in memoriam. That's it. It's time immemorial. That's it. You've said it. It's done. It's out there. Somebody can find it and dig it up. So if you ever think that you're going to be able to run away from this, you are sadly mistaken on this.
And you're forfeiting credibility on an issue that all the right thought we could trust each other on. For all of time, since there's been a modern right, we've all said, okay, we're all against the communists. We all are against communist aggression against free countries, right? We're all on the side of that. Whatever else we may differ on, we're on that one. But, guess not, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you see the death and the devastation that Putin has had on Ukraine and the targeting of civilians and things like this. I mean, there, this is
So
not
on
a,
the other hand, here,
yeah. I mean, it's like, to me, once again, I know I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. This is the good versus evil battle. It
yeah,
is, to me, it's very clear. And that I just don't understand why these people continue to align themselves with Putin when you have these stark figures, these stark images facing you. This is it. I mean, the media is there. They're covering this event, as it is. I mean, we had that guy from Fox News, Ben Hall. I mean, he got badly injured and he's now still recuperating. We've had some journalists killed. I think a CNN truck was blown up not far away from where the reporters were. I mean, they're seeing some stuff really firsthand. That hey, look, we're not, we weren't by a military installation. We're just trying to see what's going on, and we're getting bombs. So they can report. I mean, this is where even the media is just showing us what's going on here, and yet you have these people that are just, they've dug in for the long haul, and they're losing this battle. I mean, they're just
yeah, you're starting to see a lot of the right come around and say, okay, yeah, we get it now. On second thought, but there's a lot of dead enders out there, and people you wouldn't necessarily suspect would be, turning their career over to Vladimir Putin's version of the truth, right? But yeah, so the Russians, I believe their strategy is they can't really win this in the conventional way. So they're trying to break the will of the people. And that's why the atrocities, right? They want people to say, hey, quit fighting. Too many in my family have been murdered. Just make this go away, whatever you have to. Why? The question is, why are these people on the right? Why are they making these arguments? Well, what's driving them to make the arguments? Because it's, if you talk to them, as I did have on Twitter and Facebook, I had a Facebook war about this yesterday. They're what they say is, you just haven't thought about this, and they start spewing off their things. But when you get to the end of it, it's like, okay, so you're saying we should go send in the troops. And like, I didn't say anything about sending in the troops, right? We haven't gotten to like what the response should be, right? So it's really, I think at the root, it's an argument about how to respond as opposed to the legitimacy of the war. But so they can argue that they don't want us to respond. They argue that the cause of the Ukrainians is not legit. And I think you can have very real reservations about, a 600,000 troop landing force into this war from the U.S. and, whether, Russia was wrong to attack. I don't think that you have to be on, one side of that question. So, another thing is like, and they rightfully have concern about, Biden at the control of any kind of war effort, right? I mean, I can understand with the, the chaos in his White House, and especially at the top of his military and National Security Council appears to be in complete free fall, that we would not want to be entering combat right now. I totally agree with that. But we do have, there's some options between total all-out war and patting Putin on the back. And they seem to be stuck on patting Putin on the back because they can't see the middle. That's my
and I think, I guess the sanctions have had some effect. The world has been fairly unified. I mean, there have been problems. I did see something in the Wall Street Journal where, one of the problems with some of the oligarchs going after them is that they have these very complex, intertwined interests in the United States, and that our government is like, well, if we sanction them, and basically it might cause, the reverberations might be worse, for other things that we don't want them to be. So they have to let that be at this point. But they definitely have inflicted a lot of pain, into Russia. But Putin, I mean, he's undeterred at this point. I mean, he doesn't care what people think. He's just going at it full bore. But I think this is also an extreme embarrassment for him that here we are, 6 weeks into this thing, going on the 7th week, and he really has not accomplished much except for killing a bunch of people, bombing a lot of buildings, and demoralizing his army, which was never in very good shape to begin with, and just shows that from a military standpoint, they may have numbers, They just don't have numbers that are worth a darn, when
Right.
it comes
They
to
don't
combat.
numbers of highly trained, motivated troops. No, they don't.
Yeah.
Right. So, the other thing is I think that Lindsey Graham was right. Somebody needs to be thinking about a way to get rid of this guy one way or the other.
Yeah.
If I'm in Russia, I'm like, our country is going broke, losing population. The average life expectancy is in the mid 50s. The rest of the world, it's in the mid to high 70s. Like, what are we doing wrong here? What is this guy holding us back from that we could have a lot better country? I mean, you got to start asking the questions. Our quality of life here is really, really low compared to our neighbors, compared to Ukraine, right? That's part of this with Russia is the Ukrainians are, they've integrated with Europe. Their commerce is more modern and so forth. They were a lot closer to a westernized good life than the Russians. The Russian people are looking over that border saying, that doesn't look all that bad.
Yeah, and this is what happens when you have a guy like Putin who's basically cemented himself in for life. I mean, they've adjusted, they made changes, so he effectively can serve as long as he wants to serve. So as much as I hate to say that you got to take somebody out, yeah, and that, but I think there's truth in what Graham said. I mean, even for Biden, as much as the whole walk back, back and forth situation about regime change, this is really the way to solve that, to help if the Russian people really want to, if they really want to make some progress, if they want to improve their lives, the regime change is going to be the answer.
It's going to have to happen. And I don't mind Biden going off the rails a little bit there because, they don't know if he's serious, right? Let them worry about it a little bit.
Right. Yeah. So we'll wait and see. But I mean, that's obviously all eyes are continuing to stay on Ukraine at this point. And so our thoughts and prayers. I do want to say, and particularly in this case, in terms of how a lot of the world has reacted, we're seeing, just the human nature of how they respond to help the people, all the projects and fundraisers, things that people are trying to do to raise money for humanitarian purposes to help the people in Ukraine. I mean, this is when you've got as many people who have fled the country, they've crammed into Poland and other countries. We're taking in some refugees, but the displacement has been, just mind-numbing at this point in time for people who have upended their lives, seen their lives upended, to that extent because of Putin. They need all the help they can get, and hopefully we can get families that have been separated reunited, and we can get things back to normal at some point in time. But this obviously has gone on far longer than Putin ever expected it to be.
I'm real proud to be a member of the Knights of Columbus at this time. Knights of Columbus is big in Poland and to some extent in Ukraine. There's a lot of Catholics in that part of the world, and they have funneled a lot of humanitarian assistance into Ukraine now. It's they raised money for it. All the councils, our council kicked in some money. All of them are, and they have people on the ground over there assuring. One thing about Knights charities is the people who administer the charity don't get paid. So, all the money you give goes to whatever it is you're given to. There's next to no administrative expense to dispersing the money. You give them $10, $9.95 makes it into the right hands. So, and they've done really yeoman's work in that.
That's great, Dan. And that's the way it should be in particular of cases like this, is that the overhead should be minimized and let the volunteer forces push this through. If you're organized, I mean, and you think about it too. I mean, logistics is a huge thing. I mean, people don't really think about the logistical things of trying to get all of this done. It's great when you have the network within the countries, because that helps a lot. But you can just imagine trying to get things even from here. People want to do things here and send them overseas. That takes a lot of effort to make that happen.
Yeah.
But it's not impossible. I'm glad it can happen here. I'm going to assume this. Oh yeah, we've seen him before. I've seen him before.
Yeah. Those are fearing for their lives. Yeah, that's right. He is jailing some people for the dissent there in Russia. That's a good point.
Right. I mean, and that's
you're fighting. He's fighting an internal battle now, and you notice that like he himself is increasingly isolated. I guess he's also paranoid about getting COVID, and he's like all germicide, this and that and the other. So he's kind of going down a rat hole himself. So we're not sure. We talk about Biden being off his rocker, Putin maybe too.
Yeah. All right. On to the Supreme Court. So we've had the hearings and everything like that. The committee vote, was tied. It's going to. I guess it's going to the floor vote, and we have the usual suspects from the Republicans. Not. I mean, I'm not surprised at all. I mean, particularly once really all you need is one to actually do that, and it kind of breaks the dam, and then then you get. So you have Collins, Murkowski, and Romney, going to vote in favor. So, I didn't think the vote for this nomination was really going to be in doubt anyway, because they had a tiebreaker with Kamala Harris.
Well, I don't know if they do on this, do they? I think that's for legislation. I'm not sure it's for confirming judges. I think you have to have 51 senators.
Well, I mean, but they're going to have. At this point, they'll have 53, right?
Right. They're fine anyway, but I think they had to have somebody had to go over for them.
Yeah. I mean, you may be right about that. I hadn't thought about that. I mean, for this particular thing, the tiebreaker rule may not have applied, so they definitely needed that. That could be, but it looks like they've got this one in the bag at this point. I don't know that from the time that she was nominated that I had much of a doubt that she would get confirmed. I just didn't see that this, because part of the problem, once again, and I've seen it, is just that anybody who speaks out against her, even if they voted for her, before to confirm her to her current position, they're like, well, now it's racism and sexism and all this kind of stuff. It's like, the liberals, they just, and yet, once again, we compare it to a Kavanaugh or Amy Coney Barrett, it's different.
Right? This was very polite and genteel. All that they tried to do here was making a referendum on child porn sentencing, right?
Yeah,
and that was the best thing they had. Was she gives lenient sentences, and that her testimony on that, she was asked about it, and she said, "Well, you're just looking at pictures for 10 or 15, 20 minutes. You're up to 10, 15 years in jail." And Lindsey Graham, again, he's saying what I would say. Good. That's right. Good. You're looking at that stuff. Go to jail. Right. I don't feel sorry for you at all. Leave that alone. Leave kids out of it. But they were not able to turn it into a referendum on child porn. And so, you have Romney saying that, and I think Murkowski said this too. I don't expect to agree with everything this judge decides, but she looks to be qualified, and our role is to say whether she's qualified. And there's some merit to that too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, despite my general feelings about what Collins, Murkowski, and Romney tend to do on these situations, is just that the Republicans at least do try to separate this out and say we're trying to judge her on the qualifications.
Right. The Republicans try to do the process right. And
right.
they do it on the theory that if we treat their people right, they will treat our people right. And the Democrats have no respect for that bargain whatsoever. And the next person that a Republican nominates will be a Nazi, racist, gang rapist, whatever else they can think of to throw at it. It will not stop. This is the way they operate. They don't care if it's true. In fact, if it's not true, they're completely relaxed with that.
Yeah, and that's something that has bothered me for, I don't know, 25, 30 years, maybe longer. It's just that as many disagreements I've had with certain Republicans and how Republicans, when they've been in control of Congress and the Senate, have done some things, to me, the base thing for them has always been is that they've actually tried to do this the way it's supposed to be done. Whether or not it's the Congress or outside, for legislation, for a lot of things, they've actually tried to do a lot of things this way, thinking that the Democrats, always on that belief that the Democrats will, when it's their turn, whatever,
they'll feel pressured because we did it right. It's like, no, they don't. You know, same old street fighting, cutthroat, and lying through their teeth, and people they were before.
And so that's what always gets me is that, you know, we have lived through this, Brian. You and I have lived through this, decades of watching this.
How many times do we got to go through it? You know,
Yeah.
I mean, but on the other hand, you know, I would rather be the team that does it right, that tries to do it right.
Yeah.
And it's like, if the other side acts a fool, then, you know, we have a difference we can point out. We can say, hey, we tried to do this right. We gave this sober consideration. We raised some legitimate points. That was the other thing, is like, if you look at the lefty comments and what they wrote about this and so forth, they're like, how do they treat this judge like this? This is totally illegitimate. I'm like, you know, how child porn people get sentenced is a legitimate public issue. It's one that happens to be kind of close to the top of the list right now. You know, it's not like they pulled out something from 1962 and brought it up, right? This is something that's in the news right now. And, you know, they drew out some interesting stuff, and they drew out Republicans, you know, supporting, I mean, Democrats supporting this. So Democrats are down with it. And I think voters could see that on TV. This is our one chance at her, right? Once she's approved, you know, she's on there for life. So, you know, if there are questions about her, now is the time to ask them.
Right. No, I mean, the thing is, and you know, it's those same lefties that, you know, they conveniently forget how the Democrats in the Senate treated the Republican nominees.
Who was that? Yeah. He was totally credible. I'm like, no. Like, as in nothing she said could be proven.
Yeah.
So what you mean by credible, I suppose.
Yeah, it's amazing. So it'll be interesting. I mean, she won't join the court until the fall. You know, I mean, Breyer will retire at the end of this term, which will end, you know, in June, and then she'll take over, get sworn in, and take over, and they'll come back, you know, in the first Monday in October, and go forward with that. She did, you know, I remember, I think at the beginning when she was doing her initial testimony, didn't she say something about how she viewed the Constitution and some other things? She tried to really kind of level this out. I'm going to go on the basis that she will try to do that, but I don't really believe that over time that's really what's going to happen. That I do think that we're going to find that she's going to be a judge, you know, that will be further to the left than Breyer was in the end. I mean, but we'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens. We'll see what cases come up before and what that will do. But you know, this court it's been interesting. I mean, we've got a lot of women on this court now.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, I don't think it's possible for her to be any worse than Sotomayor. So right,
that's true. You know. Yeah. At this point, so we'll see how this all winds up kind of shaking out, and you know that's a decision. That's kind of our initial decision. Is, you know, judgments won't come for many more months from now. At this point, so Barack is back. The big hoo-hoo, you know, he's back at the White House, big, you know, Affordable Care Act celebration, kind of a thing like that, reminding us how popular it is, what a great thing he did for America and everything like that. You know, if you like your doctor, you keep your doctor. I don't remember, you know, remember some of the things that, you know, the thing is
Anthony Brown.
Yeah. It
was not successful. You know, no one really objects to it anymore because its wings have been totally trimmed, right? I mean, it's, you know, there's no employer mandate, there's no individual mandate. I mean, that was the part that people objected to. You know, I don't think anybody really has a problem with there being exchanges where people can go buy health insurance. It was being required to carry it, and you're no longer required to carry it. You know, and the big thing they did, and let's face it, all that was window dressing anyway, to add, you know, what was it, 14 million people to Medicaid, right? And that's really what this was all about. So those people haven't been disappeared from Medicaid, and they probably won't be ever. And so all that money's on the books, all that money the government has to come up with every year to pay for all these people's health care. That's really what they were going after anyway. And, you know, he goes back now, because you've seen this video that's circulating on the web, right? There's, you know, he's standing at the podium after it, right? And there's all these people gathered around, you know, Obama talking to him and hanging on his every word, leaning in to hear more, and, you know, And Biden like walks up and he sees this huddle and he's like, he just turns around and walks the other way. Like, they don't want to talk to me. I'm just the president, you know.
It's all about Barack. I mean,
could you imagine that happening to Trump? Could you imagine, any configuration of people in that room where they talked to George W. Bush and ignored Trump? I don't even think the Trump haters would do that, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just, that video was too much, but it just kind of shows you, the problems that Biden has, his popularity. I mean, for the Democrats, I think to me, it's funny, but I think it's a smart move on their part in the sense of bring back a guy who's popular with the Democrats as a whole, who they looked up to and everything like that. Who's still got, versus the president who is just who's treading water, on everything virtually. And so throw something positive, throw a guy who can try to bring back, and he can lie through Obama can just go ahead and lie through his teeth about the greatness of the of the Affordable Care Act. The media won't care, the Democrats won't care. Now it's a shining moment of Barack Obama. Everybody kind of surround him and do this and remember the good times of Barack Obama. Right?
When 1,000 or 1,100 Democrats lost their elections because of him, lost their seat.
But ignore those facts.
Let's remember those great days. It worked for me.
The guy who's a successful author, he and his wife got the Netflix contract. They do all these wonderful things for everybody, right? Whereas Joe Biden is like Joe Biden's got a litany of problems going out there. But you're right. As far
you want to hear another problem? Here's a bigger problem. So polling last week, the Democrats' 2024 presidential candidate take Biden out of the poll. He says he's running. He hasn't done much to prove it. We'll wait and see. Right, but he says he's running. But this is without him considered. Kamala at 28, whoever was next at 11. Right, so they're stuck with one of those two, absent a lot of finagling. Right, so she can't. I mean, I think we could put up a fence post and beat Kamala.
It wouldn't take a lot.
I think even Trump, I think Trump, of all the people that seem interested in the Republican, Trump, he's the only one that can draw 50,000 people out to some field in Texas and give a speech, right? But he's also the one who will inspire the most fervent opposition, right? The Democrats will get more serious about fighting to win this election if it's Trump than anybody else that Republicans could even think of putting up, But I think even Trump would beat her pretty easily.
Yeah, I think that's a distinct possibility there. Yeah, I think that Biden just got a problem. And you were saying about the the Affordable Care Act. Yeah, a lot of the wins have been clipped. There, it's like a lot of things. I still have these things about the Americans with Disabilities Act. Some of the things that were enacted as part of that. But once it's signed into law, it's pretty hard to undo things. But the Republicans, rather than take on the whole thing, really the best thing that they could do, and they did really, is that they started chipping away at some of the bigger pieces of it, which they were able to do, right? So as you talk about the mandates and things like that. So a lot of it has been neutered in a lot of ways. So do I really care about the Affordable Care Act a whole lot? Not really anymore, because it doesn't affect we don't have to prove that we have insurance. You don't have to have all these things and all of this stuff. So the insurance market can be a little bit more normalized and a little more free market the way it should be, instead of having the government interfere there and screw with prices and everything else that was going on along those ways. So I don't think that you can come back and extol the virtues of the ACA because it was a big deal for Obama. But for now, it's been so long now, people don't really think about it too much. It's just, it doesn't have the same effect on their lives as it did when it first was enacted, and it upended people's lives. People were scrambling on the insurance, and people had to pay fines if they didn't have the insurance, and all this kind of garbage and things like that. So, yeah, it really is about celebrating, trying to get some inject some positive message of some kind, which the Democrats are desperate for, in the Biden administration, just do anything you can to try to turn the attention into something positive, because it's a pretty negative kind of thing. You're mentioning Kamala. One of the things I saw this morning was, I think it was Goldman Sachs or Barclays. They are talking about the likelihood of a recession next year. Well, I mean, the Democrats are already facing a tough hill to climb with the midterm elections this year. If a recession, which is something that actually is a natural cycle, they do occur. I mean, it's pretty hard to avoid a recession,
especially when you have inflation, you have the Fed tightening credit to try to cool inflation. I mean, you're trying to sort of tip the economy into recession.
Right, and this is what happens a lot, is that the Fed tightens, they raise interest rates, and that tips the economy into recession. They didn't attack this inflation problem and all these things soon enough. They kept saying, it's just a temporary thing. It's going, it's not, our target of 2% will get there, but we keep seeing every month, right, 40-year highs in inflation. Maybe some of it is moderating to a certain extent, but they're still hitting 40-year highs virtually every month. Right. So this is still a problem, and the Fed now is thinking about being a little more aggressive on interest rate, increases, and that has, if they don't manage it right, we will get tipped into a recession, and then the Democrats are really going to get screwed, because Biden's having a hard enough time trying to deal with inflation and trying to explain these things away and figure out what the heck's going on there. The economy goes into recession while the Democrats, while he's in charge, they're totally screwed, to 2024 at that point. Right. They have 2022 is going to be a bad year for them, but 2024 could be, yet another disaster for them on top of that.
For them. Yeah. Which, so a couple of things are going on there. One is, their demographic has fallen apart, right? Their black voters have gone Republican in numbers we haven't seen in our lifetime. It looks like more than half of Hispanic voters are now voting Republican. Otherwise, how does Florida? Florida now has more Republicans than it does Democrats in whole numbers, which is, I've never seen that before. Because I mean, the things that they have always been counted on, the constituencies, they're not there anymore. And part of it is, a big part of what's going on, and people don't pay enough attention to this, is their policies don't work, right? You can't depend all on green energy, right? Or you'll have $6 gas and you still won't be able to depend on green energy, right? You can't tax and regulate everything into prosperity. You can't, have gas prices go to $5, $6 a gallon, and without the grocery prices going up, concomitantly. You can't outsource everything to be made overseas and then, worry about, we don't have chips to make the cars run, right? There's a lot of this stuff that goes on, and then their policies, they've been on the wrong side of this at every stage. And now they're on the wrong side of, people, we used to have a debate on our side about how much involvement to have with social policy, right? A lot of Republicans are like, hey, let's stick to, laissez-faire economics and low taxes and strong military. And, a lot of us have said over the years, no, we need to worry about immigration. We need to worry about, what gets taught in schools and so forth. And so now, those people are having their day, because the issues that are really driving this turn away from Democrats and toward Republicans are social issues for the most part. So, they're in a bad way, because they are stuck. They are wedded. They cannot get out from under some policies that, such as, boys and girls bathrooms, boys and girls sports teams, that they are not close to having enough popularity on, right? I mean, those are 15 or 20% policies. You can't win elections if you keep being on the 15% side of all the issues.
Yeah, no. I mean, speaking of immigration, I mean, the administration has made a decision there too, which is not going to go well, I don't think. Right?
No. So they've said Title 42. So they've said, you can wait for your asylum hearing in the country, right? Which is going to tell everybody who's thinking about crashing the border that today's the day. So you're going to be back to, they're already overwhelmed. And so what they're doing now is, they literally send big packs of illegal immigrants into the Border Patrol to get caught on purpose. So the Border Patrol is tied up adjudicating all these people, picking them up, processing them, figuring out where they are and should go, and they can sneak in other stuff elsewhere. Fentanyl is getting into the country now at a rate not seen since before Trump was president, right? I mean, it's basically the border is open for cargo or people of any stripe to come in at their will. And this is not an accident. This is not something that the Democrats screwed up and let happen. This is by design. They need new voters. Their voters that they've always counted on aren't with them anymore. So they have to raise up another class of people to become their voters in theory. So it's a mess, and the American people don't want it, right? Trump's immigration policies were quite popular, and they are flying the plane into the mountain. They're not just doing a little of this; they're doing a lot of this. They're making a point of repudiating all his stuff. The other thing we're talking about Biden and his popularity in 2024 and so forth is they have a little problem with his laptop. From what I can tell, what I've been reading, Hunter Biden could be indicted at any time, like within the next month. And all the crimes for which he will be accused, the evidence implicates Joe Biden as well. Also Jill Biden and Joe's brother, James Biden. So they're all in this. They're all named on these things. So pretty soon now, Joe Biden could find himself fighting off impeachment, fighting off getting kicked out of office. And you say, oh, how could that happen? They're Democrats in control of the House, so forth. These are people who realize that their plane is being flown into the mountain too. And if they want to survive it, they better get out from under Joe Biden, right? Kamala is a big risk, but it's better than what you're looking at now.
Yeah, the laptop thing is interesting. I mean, I think you agree. Just here, that was a story that was out before, right? We knew about this at the election.
Before the election,
right? But it was the media did their job there, and they suppressed that. The New York Post was trying to say, hey, look at us. By the way, and now we're coming around where the New York Times and these other media outlets are actually starting to talk about it. I'm like, yeah, you're late to the party, but does this not look like something where you were, collusion and obstruction here, where you purposely knew, to push this thing off and, just poo-poo it and discredit it because you knew what the effect it could possibly have on the election. And now you're willing to talk about it because it's, we have a grand jury, we've got all these things, the emails that are out there. I mean, how does Joe Biden get away, from, trying to say, I didn't know anything about what Hunter was doing. I'm not a part of this. It just seems that what we're seeing says, no, I mean, it seems that you were a part of this.
You're right in the middle of it. And, they have an email where Hunter Biden is saying, I had half my money taken from me by my dad. Every time I made any money, he took half of it. Well, why would, your dad consider himself entitled to half your money? Because you're trading on his name, right? There's no other reason. I never considered myself due half my dad's money, right? My dad went out and earned that money, and he gave me some, paid for me to eat and sleep and live and all that. That's all that I had to, I was thankful for that. I don't even have a right to that, right? That's his money, right? So now, if you have to give Joe half your money, it's because the money you made on Joe's name. They have some big problems there, and there's nothing. They're not going to be able to wiggle out of anything on that laptop. They own every ounce of every byte of information on that laptop, and there's no getting out from under it. And you have the U.S. Attorney in Delaware they did not fire the Trump appointee, so it's still, because if they do, you got to take your chances now, because if you fire him. The other thing they have to coming at them is, Durham is getting close to making some big news too, right? Durham has linked Hillary Clinton's campaign to Perkins Coie, to Fusion GPS, to Steele, to lies, to trying to knock Trump out of the race by claiming he's Russian, or a Russian asset or whatever. So, they got to answer for all that too. They have a lot of scandal coming at them, in addition to, the economy's terrible. Their handling of social issues has been terrible. Their administration has performed terribly on a lot of levels.
Yeah, I mean, so how do you rate uh, the laptop issue versus the other things you just mentioned? I mean, there's no doubt that voters, are very focused on their pocketbook because they're just seeing food prices out the wazoo. I may have mentioned this before, but because I'm half Japanese, my wife is Korean. She makes a lot of Asian food, which rice is a key ingredient of a lot of things that we do, and we know a lot about the Asian rice. It's a big part of it. Rice is also a big part of Hispanic food, right?
Cajun food, what
Right.
I eat.
Yeah, and you go to the store, and at least for the Japanese kind of rice and the prices have soared 20, 30, 40%. I mean, my wife is just her head is spinning for the ingredients of things that she likes to make, in terms of what's going on there. I mean, she loves to entertain people and serve them a shrimp dish. She's now going to cut back on that because shrimp has gone through the roof. So we know pocketbook will be part of it. How much will the laptop issue do you think will affect the elections? Do you think people are going to see that as another problem? Are the Democrats worried about the laptop issue also in November?
I think they are. I think they if they're not, they should be. If it's true that he is indicted in the near term, say we're sitting here on April 6th now, say before Memorial Day, right? Then his court dates are going to be coming up. When will he start having to appear in court? Over the summer, trial date will be set for sometime in the fall, right? So, as we're nearing election season, this will start being more in the news. The proceedings of this case will start to be scheduled, and the dates will start to show up, and they'll start, there'll be pictures of him going in and out of courthouses. There'll be speculation of what is, what Joe did, what Jill did, who else should be in this, right? And we may even already have answers for that. And you may have some Hillary people, some other Democrats, indicted over by Durham by then. So, you'd have a lot coming at you. Now, the Hillary stuff, I don't know that that'll have a big effect on the campaign, because I think most of the people, who would, be impressed by that or be moved by that are already going to vote Republican, right? But the corruption inside the White House now, the Joe Biden corruption now, I believe, could shake some even more independents. I don't know, though, again, because like most, independents are overwhelmingly abandoning Biden anyway, right? I mean, he's down in the 15s or 20s of independents now. So, I don't know that he has a way out of it that way.
All right, let's wrap it up here with the last word, 2 minutes.
Well, there's a couple of things to throw. I will go through them real quick. It is a big deal that a judge threw out New York's redistricting map. That was 4 seats that they had gerrymandered for themselves, for the Democrats. And the judge is saying for the plan to be approved, it will have to have at least some reasonable support from both sides. So I think that's a good thing. I guess Maryland's has been returned to.
Maryland was, and Hogan signed the new map into law. So it's not the map that his commission put together, which was definitely a much fairer map, but it's better than it's a little bit better than the Democrats' map. And it was probably about as good as we were going to get with the Democrat legislature. So they are in effect.
2 other things. Elon Musk has bought, he's now the largest shareholder and a member of the board of Twitter. It is widely expected that he will start reinstating some folks, and we will see how that goes. I don't know how much sway he really has and how willing they will be to go along with that. And it'll be interesting to see if that's even a direction he's interested in going. But he's talked about the problem with it is it's no longer a free speech exchange of ideas like it was. Also, I guess Jen Psaki made it official that she's leaving. She hasn't said when, but as soon as they get their deal worked out, she's trying to make it like she jumped, but I think it's pretty clear she was pushed. Right? She's been a liability to them from day one.
Yeah, and as soon as she's got the negotiations concluded, she just needs to walk out the door, because she can't serve in that position if she's got a contract with either CNN or MSNBC or whatever it is.
They're even raising, should she be able to negotiate while she did that job?
So here's one of the things that gets me. It's like, okay, so she goes to MSNBC. I mean, apparently the way I read it, the first initial reports was that they're thinking about setting her up on the streaming service, that they've been
with Chris Wallace.
I don't know. I mean,
I think that's where it's called being put out to pasture. We're going to put you on something no one watches. It's okay.
Yeah, it's like who wants? I mean, who wants to watch Jen Psaki host her own show even for 30 minutes? I mean, I posted this the other day when I saw this thing from CNN for their new thing, and they're now saying, for a limited time you can get it half off for life. It's like, to me, that tells me that you've got a problem. If you're already offering them a lifetime thing at $3 a month because you can't find anybody who really wants to pay you to watch this terrible
nobody buying what you selling.
Yeah.
Same with Chris Wallace went to CNN and they put him on some kind of streaming thing and nobody watches that either. Like,
I mean, I think the Fox Nation thing, I think that's working for them, but I think for MSNBC and CNN, they want to jump into that fray, but I think I don't think it's going to work out very well for them.
They quite get it either. I think it needs to be something different they don't already offer. And that's right. Just one more gas bag saying some of the same stuff.
Right. And my comment on Elon Musk is I'm really not sure exactly what the motivation is here. I mean, he bought into that when it was revealed because they have to file with the SEC when they get to above 5%. And that usually shows up on the following quarter report. The stock took like a 30% jump, which is so. I mean, he already made money off of that.
Yeah, he's already got it for free,
right? And then he's like,
Twitter for free.
This is gonna be a passive investment. So then they put him on the board and they say, oh yeah, Twitter's like, we really look forward to working with him and all these kinds of things.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna be working with him for very long, Mr.
I want a lie detector test for the CEO of Twitter about that they really want him on there. Is Musk really going to, push for getting certain people reinstated? I'm not sure. I think part of this in my mind is because as an investor, as a guy, he's already run into a lot of issues using Twitter with the SEC. And I see this as part of all his way of also kind of picking a fight with the SEC, saying, okay, look, I'm now the largest shareholder of Twitter. Why can't I say whatever I want to say? And what are you going to do with me? I think there are multiple things going on there with Elon Musk. He is very libertarian in a lot of things he says. I don't consider him a conservative hero per se, but it could be interesting to see. I mean, if he really is more of the free market, he wants decentralized control of things like this, and then that could be interesting to see what happens with Twitter. Notice, he puts that poll on there about, doing the edit button, right. And they're going to consider, and Twitter's like, well, we've been considering that for a while, which is actually true. I know there've been long discussions about that, but if it comes to pass, that it's because Musk put the poll up,
right.
Right. So anyway, all right, everyone, thanks for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed it. Please, as always, stay safe and stay well. Remember, we live in the greatest country in the world. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. And as always, God bless America, and we will see you again next week.